when you hire someone in-house physically, you tend to not do that because they're right there. So you could just turn around and say, "Hey, James, can you do this?" "Yeah, okay, cool." And you're just sort of, relying on this, "Hey, he's right next to me, we'll get it done" thing.
If you're an emerging franchise founder, you already know this. The jump from 10 to 100 units is where most brands stall out. Not because the concept isn't strong, but because the founder is drowning in chaos. I'm Guy Coffey, franchisor, franchisee, and growth strategist. I've been where you are, and I know what it takes to build a brand that scales without burning out, selling out, or losing control. That's why I created the Franchise Scaleup Show. Every week, I'll share the playbooks, the red flags, and the mindset shifts to separate the brands that stall from the ones that scale. So if you're serious about protecting your vision and multiplying your brand, hit subscribe right now. This is the Franchise Scaleup Show. I'm Guy Coffey. Let's get to work. Hey, welcome back. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Alex Miranda from Virtrify, which is an outsourcing service from South America. And Alex has been in this business for a long time, doesn't just have the resources that can help you, but also helps you manage those resources well so that you can grow and maybe provide more support earlier in your development than you normally would if you had to pay full price here in the US. So without further ado, welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you for having me, bro. It was good to meet you at Fran Camp. What a great event.
Yeah, that was fun. And Nick and Charles put on a great event down there in Miami, in your hometown, and met a lot of cool people, including you, and wanted to share those introductions with some of the people that listen to the show, particularly brand founders and leadership teams, because I think what you're doing is providing something that can actually help the franchisees. And that's what franchising is all about, is if the franchisor can afford to provide more support earlier in their development, then the franchisees benefit, the clients benefit. It's a virtual circle. It's a win-win. So if you wouldn't mind, just give us a little bit about your background, how long you've been doing this, and what Virtrify really is, what's your value proposition?
Yeah, so for your audience, franchisors at any level, we design, hire, and manage these specialized virtual teams that power franchise development, and really are there to help franchises succeed and a system-wide kind of execution, without adding headcount to the headquarters. That's our big thing. All of these franchise systems, you've got marketing, operations, sales, all that good stuff. But yeah, a lot of these roles, they don't need to be with, people being paid here in the US, W-2, salary, employee, healthcare benefits. A lot of these positions can be done from Latin America. And I'm still surprised at how many people don't know this and aren't using it. I've been using virtual people since 2008. And I know other entrepreneurs have been doing it even earlier than that. We were talking about the Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week. Like, that guy started a revolution in entrepreneurs, showing people that you could use international talent. Ever since then, Guy, I've personally stopped hiring people here in the US, but you have to know how to manage them correctly. You got to know how to find them, manage their hours, give them proper SOPs. So that's what my company does. We find them, we put SOPs in place, we create training manuals for them, and then company pays us and we pay them. And it's, again, still 50 to 70% less than what US talent is.
Okay. And talk to us about the roles that you fill. I'm in particular, I'll just start it out. As a founder, exited founder, even now with starting other businesses, the first thing that I've invested in is an executive assistant,
Yes, sir.
so that I am out of the weeds and can focus on other things. But when we were talking, it starts there, but it goes up from on the org chart from there. So tell us a little bit about the span of the roles, and how you really vet them so people aren't investing time, energy, and money in training this resource in their own system, and it doesn't work out, then they have to start somewhere else. So tell us about that.
Yeah, Guy, I think it's important that every entrepreneur first start out with an executive assistant. A strong executive assistant is like a Swiss Army knife. They should
Mm.
be able to do a lot of things as a entrepreneur needs because an entrepreneur wears a lot of hats. Having this right hand person is so critical, and a lot of times you're starting a company with another person, right? So it's you and a partner. Um,
Hmm.
so having a strong executive assistant that the both of you can rely on is, man, it's like it's so awesome to have this person who's going to be able to schedule calls, help you follow up with prospects, maybe do some bookkeeping. They can also help with onboarding. I mean, if we think of like all of the departments, let's say of you're building this franchise system, and you've got you need to develop more franchises. You need to manage all those leads. You need to then onboard and support people during their launch. Gosh, you got to give these franchisees a great experience and retain them. You gotta be able to provide operational support. There's training systems. There's marketing that goes out to get to more franchisees. Compliance, bookkeeping. All of these things are because you're small, one executive assistant can help in all of those things. But the key here is once you're growing, once this one executive assistant can't handle everything, that's when you begin to hire specialized roles. You keep your executive assistant because that's your right hand. That's like the one who started it with you. They're going to go all the way with you. But now you have this executive assistant who pretty much did a little bit of everything. Think about it. They did a little bit of sales, they did a little bit of accounting, a little bit of onboarding. So guess what? Now they become a trainer of the rest of your virtual team that you're building. So if the next position is, let's say you want to just more sales, you want more franchises. So you want, SDR, sales development rep, that's going to
Hmm.
just go after a certain target market for prospecting franchisees. You can bring a virtual person to do all of that work as your second position. Now the executive assistant doesn't have to do that job. Now they can take one hat, train it to someone else, and the executive assistant can focus and stay side by side with the entrepreneur. The smartest move is to start with an executive assistant, but if you already have a team, let's say, you've got 10, 15 people at the office already,
Hmm.
then really it comes down to where is the biggest hole in our bucket right now? Where are we
Yeah.
struggling with most? For some, it's marketing. They need more franchisee interest. For some, it's you've got 60 franchisees, 50 franchisees, but you're constantly cycling your franchise business consultant, your FBC. Why not have an FBC that is virtual? Why does the FBC doesn't have to show up to the office and check things out? The FBC needs to be constantly meeting with the franchisees, making sure they have all the resources they need. Maybe that's the problem is franchisee retention or happiness. So you need to create a franchisee happiness coordinator, somebody who's like an FBC. So honestly, it comes down to where the need is at the time, Guy. But if we're talking startup, you need a strong executive assistant.
Yeah. It's interesting. The franchise business coach, or, everybody has a different name for them. But I think it's one of the most important positions in franchising. So it's interesting that you say that. For me, I would think that would be, I think there's so much that's on a founder's plate. I'm thinking about a client of mine that has, 20 something units operating and a small team, and they have a lot more coming online already, scheduled for 2026. And this person is really worried about stretching them too thin. And they're already complaining a little bit about, we've got a lot on our plate. And to be honest, I know what the normal ratio is for this, and they're not really at that ratio yet. But, how someone feels is how someone feels. So I'm kind of thinking as someone that's frontline with the franchisees that they met at discovery day, or they've gone to do site visits, or they were there for the grand opening. Um, besides that, and then having specialized knowledge of the system, but those people also are doing a lot of things that aren't value add. They're not client facing and things like that. So one of the things that I would like to hear is if you've seen it work where one virtual assistant is helping, the founder and the co-founder, or one virtual assistant is helping the support staff to get some of the admin stuff off their plate and do things like that. Have you seen that work? Because that sounds like a good model for me if you're trying to have that core group that you're with, but also give them more bandwidth.
You hit the nail on the head, Guy. That's the name of my book is called The Hybrid Hiring Model. The hybrid hiring model is you've got your physical team,
Mm.
and then you've got under them a virtual team that supports the physical team. The idea here is if you're going to keep a physical team, awesome. Pay them well, W-2, cool, awesome. But to get the most out of those people, let's say you're paying those guys 30, 40 bucks an hour, right? We're talking good employees here. Why are you going to have them do $15 an hour work? And then
Yeah.
they're always complaining that they're stretched too thin, they're wearing too many hats. And if they wear 4 hats, they prioritize 1 and 2. 3 and 4 may never even start to get done.
Hmm.
And then everybody's mad at each other. So
Hmm.
the hybrid hiring model, I teach entrepreneurs, what can you take off the plate of your highest paid people, which are all US based? What can you take from them so that they're only doing high level $40 an hour work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Give them an assistant. So you need a
Hmm.
HR assistant or a marketing assistant or an operations assistant or an onboarding assistant. Some of these people, we're talking about assistants, but some of these people can actually do more than assistant work. Okay. We're talking these people in Latin America, they graduate with degrees just like ours. They're experienced people just like us. They're bilingual. So they don't have to just assist, but it's good to get them in an assistant role first because then they learn it and then you upgrade them. But then the person up here who's a US base, they can get upgraded to director level. So I love this that you pointed out, this concept that I've been writing about and talking about, which is the hybrid hiring model. You have physical people here, but they are the executive, they're the essential, they're the ones boots on the ground. Everyone else can be virtual, bro. Everyone.
Mm. Yeah. Because it's about relationships and trust, right? And if you have this small team, it'd also be cool, like imagine you're director of support and you know you have an assistant that helps you handle the stuff that you don't really want to do anyway, right? um it's almost like a job perk. You know what I mean?
It can be, and it can be used that way. I would think that a smart entrepreneur would put this virtual level to make people at the top happier.
Yeah, yeah, because what you want is stability, and transition is not stability, especially in your core team. So I like that. So let's talk about they're all valuable, so don't get me wrong, but on an org chart, where's the bottom position and where is the top position that you can fill and for a franchise organization?
Look, assistants, any assistant is a bottom position.
Hmm.
Um, but I've staffed CFOs. My CFO, my company does 3.5 million a year. We have 80 something clients. I've got about 150 people working. There's a lot of moving parts. I'm to the level where I needed a CFO. My CFO is in South America. This guy would have costed me 200K here in the
Hmm.
US, but down
Yeah.
there costs me 6K a month. I'm full time. This guy worked 20 years in a multinational. So I'm talking about I get some high level support. So you ask me you know, from the org chart perspective, C level, what CFO like shows up and does any kind of manual labor? Like they don't. CFOs are not part of
Yeah,
the
their
physical
leadership and
operation.
strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all the way down to an assistant. It could be an HR assistant, a marketing assistant, a bookkeeping assistant. Um, but everything in between there, I've staffed marketing directors, I've staffed HR directors, I've staffed people in all types of positions in the org chart. Um, I'm the CEO of my company, and my partner is the COO. We're the only US based people. So think a staffing agency is ran 100% virtual because me and my partner are the only people here in the US.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you this. You know, just the advantage of staffing with folks from South America, and is it primarily one country? And what's the advantage of for a US based franchisor or multi-unit operator, anybody that needs, you know, staffing help to be utilizing the services from South America?
I started using I started in '08 using people from the Philippines. I think that's probably the most popular place to recruit
Yeah.
from. It's where it all
Yeah.
started. Philippines, India, Pakistan, even Ukraine for development. This is
Hmm.
where it all started on that side.
Hmm.
Latin America came online around 2015, 2016, okay, in terms of being able to do, virtual kind of support.
This is a quick break to thank you for listening. Every week, we are getting more and more people listening to the show, and this growth is helping me to improve it and make it even more helpful to you. My intention for this show is to help more people win in business and life. To that end, I have a favor to ask. If you know of an entrepreneur that would benefit, please hit the share button and shoot them a text with the link. Back to the show. Make this a great day.
Um, Once I caught wind of Latin America, everything changed. Why? Because Filipino work or India work, that's project-based work. Because remember, they're not in our time zone. So that's
Hmm.
cool. Hey, here's a website I need you to do. Here's a software I need you to do. Here's a flyer I need you to create. But that's 2 or 3 days, right? Those things take a while, or 2 or 3 months. Project-based. We could talk again in the morning. But I
Hmm.
never got rid of my um like account manager, my sales manager, people that were project manager. These were people I needed on my time zone. So when we're talking about um Latin America, why did I choose it? Time zone, number one. Number two, cultural alignment. They're just, and you asked what country. I predominantly get from Venezuela. Look, Venezuela was populated by Europeans in the 1900s. Okay.
Hmm.
So what do you have in Venezuela? Italians, Germans, French, multi generation. So you
Yeah.
have this Western culture, but now a lot of them travel to Miami. So there's this influence of the United States there. They're literally our time zone. They're the richest country in all of South America. The education level is out of control. And because of the issues that they've had over the last 20 years, what happens is that there's a lot of displacement of engineers working at restaurants. So what I do is I find that engineer an engineering job with an engineering company here in the United States. This is happening in marketing, sales, operations, CFO. My CFO was part of a multinational that was in the oil and gas industry. And then
Okay.
that got rocked over there. So guess what? I was able to catch a CFO to come work for me. So this talent is available to us. They're not all from Venezuela. There's other Latin American countries that we
Hmm.
recruit from. Um, but you ask the country. My partner's Venezuelan. We get a lot of them from Venezuela. Um, but they are a little bit more expensive than Filipinos. But guess what? I'm willing to pay that little bit more because of my time zone and cultural alignment, plus the language. When a Filipino gets on the phone or an Indian gets on the phone, it's a little bit different than when a Latino gets on the phone. The accent, for some reason, here in the United States is just more culturally acceptable. It is what it is.
Yeah, we hear it more. That's probably
Yeah,
why, right?
yeah.
That's interesting. I'm just thinking about a real case scenario. So someone needs help in sales. They need an appointment setter. They need someone to be checking texts, incoming on a system and reaching out right away to try to set appointments or answer questions. What does that process look like? I come to you and be like, hey, I'm thinking about for my wife's construction services company down in Phoenix. They need an appointment setter, and we can get a lot done with automated text and AI, and the voice isn't quite there yet, but it would be great to have someone that was just that was their role. So how do we start? I call you, I go to your website. How do I get cost information? How do I work with you?
Yeah, we talk at virtrify.com is my website, but we'll get on a discovery call first. If it's sales, we'll talk about what position within the sales, because there's SDRs, as sales development reps. All they do is like identify an opportunity, right? Get someone to raise their hand. Then it could be an appointment setter that's needed, because there's webinars that are happening that they might be doing, but then someone has to sit there and set appointments. There might be a presenter, someone who just presents, right? That's all their job is present our solution, and ask for the sale. Sometimes it's all of the above. We've worked with, think about a personal injury law firm. They need an intake specialist, all the way through. Even in franchisee, so not we've been talking about franchisor, but franchisee level, we have one of our franchisees is Zoom Drain. They're an emergency plumbing service company. They need more relationship building with other plumbers, property managers. So they have their person calling to develop referral partnerships, right? So the call really comes down to what are we impacting here? And I love sales positions. Sales positions are the best key because there's ROI to them. So when someone needs someone in sales, that's exciting to me, because you can track things there. You could track the number of calls. You could track the number of appointments set. You could track the number of, them moving along the stage. So we were talking earlier, Guy, like how do you make sure these people are working, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do
Yeah.
you know? Like, you hire a sales guy, how the heck do you know they're working? Well, every CRM at this point, they're tracking hours on the phone, minutes on the phone. They're tracking movement along the pipeline. So you develop KPIs. So I'll meet with the client, understand what their need is, and then we create the job description for it. We create a 90-day onboarding plan for it, and we go to our database. We've got about 8,500, and it grows by 50 a week that want to work. We'll put this job description out there. There's a certain personality type too that matches every job description. So we will, on our database, people take personality tests. People take English tests. They put up their experience. So we're sourcing from our database a personality match and an experience match. Then we're bringing 3 candidates to a candidate presentation. You get to hear their video, right? Listen to their English. If it's sales, they typically want a high level of English. So we'll make sure we bring that as well. And then the person says, hey, I want to interview Carlos and I want to interview Maria. Then they get on an interview. It's like this video call. They ask the questions. And then when they say, hey, I want Carlos to start, January 15th, that's when the first payment is made. So we're one of those companies. We're not charging a search fee. Everything starts, on the hire.
Okay. All right. And then I'm sure it varies, but for your base position, someone that Swiss Army knife person, that's probably how someone's going to go into this and get a level of trust and with it, right? Wait, you're saying no? Is that not true?
No, that is true.
Oh,
And
oh, okay. Okay.
yeah, I was nodding because I know where this question's going, and you're looking at around. Well, everybody at the end of the day wants to know price. $2,500 is a good starting price for a strong executive assistant, Swiss Army knife type person, and it goes up from there. I described to you a CFO at $6,000 a month. So it's everything in between that. But we're typically around the $2,500 to $3,000 range with most of our positions. And
That's
that's
full time.
per month. That's full time per month. So 40 hours a week gets you 176 hours. Just think 9 to 5, 5 days a week, 2,500 to $3,000 a month, which leaves it around $15 an hour to 15 to $17 an hour, something like that.
Okay. And are there fractional EAs? If someone's listening to this and they're like, well, I don't have 40 hours a week. That sounds like another job for me to manage that person. Right. And I don't have 40 hours a week for that. Or is there fractional, or
Part
is
time,
25?
20 hours a week or 40 hours a week. So
Okay.
just divide that into two, and that's
Sure.
kind of where you're looking at.
Okay, great. And then is it possible, I don't, you would have to, it's hard for anybody to have two bosses, right? So, but if you had, for instance, my wife and I, like, could we share a virtual assistant or an EA
Very
for
common.
one company?
Very common that either an entrepreneur has multiple companies, so the EA needs to manage multiple companies, or the husband and wife or the two business partners share the same executive assistant. Heck, I've had where a whole department shares an assistant.
Okay.
So yeah, it's tough to have multiple bosses, but usually someone rises to the top as like the main user of that person.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe the request funnels through that person because they're going to know that person's workload. And then what's the communication platform that you use for this? Or is there one, or is it if someone has a preference, can they use their own, or how does that work?
Every company is different. I've got some that use Microsoft Teams, others that use Slack, others that love WhatsApp, and everything's through WhatsApp. The franchise system I talked to you about, Zoom Drain, it's all about Google and Google Chat and Google phone number and they're sold out 100% for Google.
Okay.
It's up to the company. If the company doesn't have one, we're just recommending, one like WhatsApp or Google.
Yeah. 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 I imagine it's a lot easier to do now than it was back in 2001 or
Remember
2008.
Skype?
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
Skype, bro? And you had to pay
Yeah.
per minute. That's how I started all of this.
Yeah.
Skyping with my guys from India and the Philippines. Is
Right.
Skype even around?
Yeah. I don't
Bro, that
know.
was a good brand, Skype. Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But
don't even know if they're around
no,
anymore.
that's interesting. Well, I think, what you're doing, it's only going to get bigger and bigger because people want to grow. The reason that I wanted to have you on for my audience is I think that sometimes someone might make a mistake like I did. I delayed hiring a CFO for years and years and years because I thought I was going to have to hire a CFO for $250,000 a year. And then later on, I learned that I could have a fractional CFO. And when I did that, I was like, oh my gosh, I should have done this 3 years ago. And I don't want franchise systems not to provide the support to the franchisees because they can't afford full-time American salaries, that position would really help the clients and the franchisees succeed. So I look at this as not just an interim step. It could be an interim step, but a way to bolster everything that's here, and especially client facing. For an emerging franchise system, it's really good to have a smaller team that doesn't change. Like they grow up in the system, right? Um, and to have that back office providing, it also does provide. Maybe we'll touch on this before we land the plane here. Is they're building SOPs, right? They're building the processes. It's documented. Whereas if you hired a director of support and they have their own systems and they're building it and they're putting it in place, maybe that person gets hired away, or maybe something happens to that person. All of a sudden, you have this whole support system that's like, yeah, like that person may go, but we have this whole system that the new person can use, and this is
Yes.
how we use it. So it provides a level of stability too.
Yeah, man. You're going a couple levels deep here. But the truth is this: virtual team members don't work without SOPs. It doesn't work without training. It doesn't work without standard operating procedures. It doesn't work without KPIs. So you're doing a two for one. When you hire a virtual team, you're doing a two for one for yourself,
Mhm.
because you're forcing yourself to create the three key things that a scalable business needs.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
when you hire someone in-house physically, you tend to not do that because they're right there. So you could just turn around and say, "Hey, James, can you do this?" "Yeah, okay, cool." And you're just sort of, relying on this, "Hey, he's right next to me, we'll get it done" thing. Whereas when you have a virtual team member, it didn't work that way. They need to follow a step-by-step process. So we work with our clients to create SOPs. Um, but it's an amazing two for one that you get when you start using virtual team members.
Yeah, I'd like everybody in the audience to consider that. I think that's a huge point because the proximity does provide convenience and speed, but it's not great for scalability. And if that person leaves, a lot of that knowledge walks out the door with them. So I think that's another huge benefit to this is it forces you to process and put things on paper and operations manuals and things like that. So um, that's good. That's good to know. So,
Yes, sir.
all right. Well, we're going to have everything so people can contact you directly. Obviously, anybody in the audience wants to know anything more, they can also contact me and I can get you to Alex, but everything will be in the show notes. And love what you're doing. I think at the end of the day in franchising, what we want to do is help franchisees win. And, if this helps that to that end, I think it's a fantastic service. And I'm sure you're doing things outside of franchising too. But that's where my head is always at, like franchisee success. And that's really based on the support they're getting from the franchisor. And I think that's a great service that you're providing to franchisors. So thanks for what you're doing. Keep on growing. And I appreciate you being on the show. And I'm sure everybody's grateful for you to share your knowledge. And I'm sure you'd be willing to chat with anybody that's interested in learning more.
Thank you, Guy. And I'm always here for another episode because we could just keep going.
Yeah,
This could be a whole series.
right. Exactly. Well,
Thank you.
thanks so much. We're going to land the plane today, but I appreciate you joining and we'll have everything linked below. That wraps up today's episode of the Franchise Scale Up Show. If this gave you a strategy you can put into play, please share it with one founder who needs the help. You might save them months of pain. If you're ready to go deeper, whether it's building your support infrastructure, accelerating territory sales, or preparing for private equity, go to guycoffey.com. That's GUYCOFFEY, and book a free franchise growth strategy call. I only partner with founders who are committed to scaling without losing control. If that's you, I'd love to connect. Until next time, protect your vision, move fast, and scale smart. I'm Guy Coffey. Talk soon.